You notice I've been digging this song a lot lately, huh? It's a good song. I like starting out with this. It's good fun. Alrighty, folks. How you doing today? I'm feeling good today. You know why? Well, I slept pretty well, but I had a little bit of a bath today, which I just don't normally do. So I'm feeling a little refreshed. Ready to jump into, good golly gee, probably the thickest topic of the year. Not for any reason other than, you know, Star Citizen and their marketing. We're going to talk today about base building. First, I'm actually going to start. It is adorable. Thank you. First, I'm going to start with, I want to do a little question, a little cue to the chat out here. While I'm saying my hellos, I'll let you guys rally up your answers. But I want to hear from you. What is your perceived endgame in Star Citizen? What, we all got into this game because we kind of dreamed of doing something, and they like to play off of those dreams a lot of the times. Over the years, over the freaking decade. They'll say things, you know, you'll do this, you'll do that, touring and discovering jump points and building bases and crafting stuff and running a company and all this jazz. I'm interested in knowing specifically what you see yourself doing long-term in this game, because today we're going to jump into a little bit of that end-game content, specifically base building, but, you know, we'll stretch it a little bit, because this might be a base building talk we're about to have, but I promise you, in the resources I have here, including this one from 2017, this stuff from 2021, this here from 2022, and of course this from last year in 2023, we're talking about a little more than base building. We're talking about resource gathering, exploring and surveying, crafting, and a couple of different things. So thank you for coming live. If you did come to this live stream, if you're just watching the deep dive afterwards, consider joining us live. I'm live on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, and every so often we actually drop a cooking stream after this. Today we're going to be frying up some fried chicken. 3 different types of fried chicken to see which goes down the gullet just best. But I do these live streams generally on Mondays for the deep dives, and then we get into some gameplay on the other days. And also every once in a while, like today, we're doing a giveaway. We're giving away a Cutter game package, Star Citizen included. If you'd like to get in on that, exclamation point giveaway, or just visit our website, you'll be able to find it. It's up there, navigation bar and all that jazz. That's being given out on Wednesday, and we'll be starting a new one probably shortly after that. Big shout out to Tiny Home Gaming. I see you in the chat, man. Thank you so much for sponsoring that one. And yeah, there's my announcements for today. I also put out a new podcast episode, and oh god, I can't wait to look at the comments section on that one. It's kind of discussing why people are a bit frustrated with Star Citizen right now and the different angles they're coming from and all that jazz. But before we do that, yeah, it was hot micing, dude. Did you like my singing? Toes. I feel like I make the song a little bit better with the ad-libs. Little Vastin, it's good to see you in chat though, dude. Echo, hello Toes gang. How are you today? Infinite Reach, good to see you. Colt Kimber, the Colt favorite. A0 and Pedro, welcome in, folks. Shifty with the Toes gang. Luna Maria, good to see you. Hope you're having a great weekend. I hope you had a good weekend. Hope the rehearsal went well. Looking forward to the next weekend. You got a good old bunch of stuff going on this week for you. You do too. Hello. You got VeggieTales stuck in here. Dude, I gotta download the VeggieTales song if you like to talk to tomatoes, and make sure that we start a stream off with that. That's pretty good. I should start a video off with that at some point, as long as they don't copyright me. Baldson, hello. Welcome in. How you doing, man? Captain Super Nightman, hello. Jowl, good to see you. Zira, welcome in, Netherlands. And Town Scott, hello. All right, endgame messages. So you're gonna be lost in space, trapped in the void. Okay, that's good. Endgame, that's good. Your endgame would be fighting over whole systems with your org. Realized. Yeah, I think I'm wondering how that's gonna work out, or gameplay on the larger scale. What they're really gonna allow us to do and fight over. Town Scott, you'd be curious to know their end game for SC. I think this, what we're about to look at is a lot of it, but everybody's end game is different, so I'm not gonna try and gatekeep y'all. It could be as simple as sweeping up trash in the spaceports. Maybe that's your thing. Maybe you like to be a janitor. Be that spacefaring janitor. Let your brooms out.
Space janitor.
It's not an innuendo either. Don't take it like that. Realize, thank you for the sub. Appreciate you. Thank you for the tier 1 sub and for following the channel. Welcome to the garden, my friend. We're gonna plant a tomato for you. I promise. Vassin, you'll be doing everything? That's good to hear. We need that kind of everything spirit in GII. Being hired by players to take out bounties. Okay. Hired gun. Got married on Saturday. Wait, it wasn't just the rehearsal. Oh my god. You got married. What? Luna Maria, congratulations. Big old day. Cheers to you and the fiance. Now the full-on partner. Happy for you both. Hope it went very well. Hope you had tons of happiness and joy and laughter and smiles. Can we get a little bit of a congratulations in chat?
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming in. This is your captain speaking. Tomato will be with you shortly.
Holy crap. Hey, Board Gamer. Why didn't I get a notification for that in my earballs? Yo, Board, thank you for the raid, my friend. Welcome in, Board Gamers. I never know what to call you, your people. Thank you for dropping in, though, on Twitch. Appreciate y'all coming in. You got to hear just in time. We're doing a deep old dive all the way back. This is what, 7 years ago. We're going to be talking about base building from the beginning of when they started to talk about it, which was arguably too soon, but we'll get to that. You're interested in building diplomatic relationships between orgs. Okay. There's going to be a lot of inter-org gameplay. I know that. Ziram, your end game is aimlessly flying around discovering unmarked locations. So you're into the exploration kind of stuff. Mrs. Tomato as well. Myself as well. I'm obviously going to be focused a lot on the org and maintaining our org and growing it and continuing our ever-reaching manufacturing and quote-unquote farming and pharmaceutical businesses. But I am also mainly focused on being a data broker and explorer in my off time. So that's my jam as well. Quantum Imperium. You're going to want to stockpile RMC and Con, so your in-game focus is figuring out the best way to gather those commodities the most efficient way. Oh, I bet you're enjoying the idea of stockpiling commodities in your hangar then, huh? Waiting for the price to drop or rise. Caveman, good morning to you. Ananzi, welcome in. Good morning. Thank you for holding down the mod game over there on Twitch. Appreciate you. Soku. Hello. Dunderchester. 07's buddy. Adam, welcome in. You had the best week, and you'll tell two more during the cooking stream. Looking forward to it, Luna Maria. Looking forward to it. On your farm, on your porch, on a tiny remote moon somewhere, making sure people stay off your lawn, Jock. Gonna have to find a good moon for a lawn. Or you're gonna have to find a special kind of grass. Caveman, your group was taking a look at the Bangle and the Kingmaker ship and realized how small the ships we have really are in comparison. It'll be interesting to see how those ships function in the verse. For sure. Your end game would be to lead your own fleet crew by AI listening your orders with your friends with their own fleets. According to CIG videos about AI, it should be possible. I don't know how good those AI are gonna perform though. Board, I appreciate you, dude. I would really, really love to get you in a podcast sometime soon. I've got one coming up that I think would really suit you. Starcar, 07, buddy. Irate, welcome in. Your end game is becoming someone people turn to for support, mainly towing, engineering, and repair. Nice. Okay. About to save some lives. Echo also holding down the mod game, dude. Has my focus changed at all on what the org does and how they operate, as in main professions and such? Not really. No, GII was always created as an org that could both have an internal, very strong and focused group. You know, the people who bleed tomato juice, for lack of a better phrase. As well as being a place that casual gamers can use as support. You know, you're flying around the verse, maybe you do need to drop some commodities off, or maybe you do need somebody to refuel from or to help you out with a mission, you at least know that the people you're talking to understand the culture of GII. You don't have to be good friends with them. You don't have to be running events with them every week. But when you do maybe come across that time when you need someone else, you at least know you can hold them accountable to some sort of rules outside of just they're playing Star Citizen, you know? Even if we get AI for crew, you'll have to feed them, equip them, and pay them. Oh, I'll pay them in food. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Or 1 food. Kill 2 problems with 1 bird. Fried chicken. I'm sorry, I'm really excited for the fried chicken today. Oh, 7's Blackhawk. Nice to be able to listen in on this while at work. Yo, I love to be a good work second screen or even third screen content. That's the best part about streaming. You guys can really hear that fan. There we go. No, you can still... Oh, that's the fan out there you can hear. Jesus, this mic. I need to turn up the noise gate on this thing, huh? Because you can hear it without me even talking. That's not okay. There we go. Just raise the threshold a couple decibels. Your favorite SC YouTuber, Diz. Thank you, man. Who cares if we can hear the fan? I'm trying to, you know, I'm trying to give you a good experience, you know? Is the fan gonna block the wonderful sound effects that I have over here? Little couple snaps, couple of these, couple of that. Drazen, dude, thank you for subbing up again with the Prime, too. I see you. 45 months. 40 freaking 5. A couple of you guys have been subbed longer than I've been playing Star Citizen. It feels like. Cooling my PC with the fan from the Connie. Dude, do those even function yet? Yeah, Holston. Holston's another one who's been around here for freaking... feels like decades, man. I hope you're doing well, Holston. Okay. Hey, BenQ. Good to see you in here. And Brigadier Bo. We've got all the great names in chat today. I'm excited to get to this. So, we're going to talk about base building. Now, we've gone a little bit over endgame content for everybody. It's a lot of mixture of exploration and self-fulfilling prophecies of old grandpa on the porch step. Every time I think of old grandpa, I think of that scene from, I think it was Holes. I don't want to dig holes no more. Well, that's too damn bad. I'm tired of digging holes, grandpa. God, good times. Sorry, I got completely off course there. So we're going to talk about some exploration, talking about some corporate power, seems like, running fleets, running businesses, running your things. But a big part of, I think, of what draws a lot of end games for tons of different games. No Man's Sky, Valheim, heck, Satisfactory, a game that I'm going to start to do some content on in the next couple of weeks here. A lot of these things focus a ton on building, because like making your own home somewhere is pretty freaking cool. And in a game like Star Citizen, where, you know, supposedly resources are going to be in certain places, they're going to be more and less valuable depending on how much security there is. We've got UEE systems with tons of security, unclaimed systems with no security but more valuable resources. All this stuff is going to dictate the focus and excitement around base building, and they want to make sure that you can do it whether you're playing as a single player and maybe interacting with other people, or playing as a big group or an org. So we're going to do a little review of it today. I'm releasing a video about this later in the week, but I thought we could just do a little live talk, looking back at some of the videos, getting into conversation about the resource management and the process of base building, which does include a lot of exploration, and get an idea of where they're headed. And this is all coming from, of course, their marketing. Something that they posted out just a couple of weeks ago. This is August 2nd, so yeah, less than a couple weeks ago. And this is a weird one. Not gonna lie. This is a video that they released for 324, and you'll notice that as we get into it. But they, like, out of nowhere, they're just kind of like, oh yeah, and by the way, base building. I don't think they should have done that, but it's here, so we're going to cover it, which I guess is what they're depending on. I think this is one of those times where they get a little bit ahead of themselves on the hype, but we'll see what they're going to do with this long term. Now, we'll go from this back to 2017 to listen to what they talk about the process of getting to base building, and then we'll work our way back up to CitizenCon of last year. And then, you know, you guys can keep your comments coming, say what you're thinking, ask your questions, you know, the whole real deal. Live deep dive, you know how it is. Thank you so much, Raven, for the sub. Coming up on 2 months now. Appreciate you driving us forward on the goal today. Let's see what they had to say.
It's bringing tremendous changes to how you manage your belongings. Your persistent hangar is now your first customizable home in the verse. Organize your cargo, keep your gear close, and jump straight into the fray. Your own space means quicker access to the things you need. And Alpha 324 is just the beginning of establishing your home. Stay tuned for more at CitizenCon this year. Until then, get ready for Alpha 324. It's time to shape your own adventure.
Okay, so that's like it's so freaking random to me that they're just like, look at the 324 features. You've got your hangars and your ship and your elevator. Oh yeah, and then there's base building, by the way. So this looks very much like what I imagined our first versions of base building would be, if not less than this. I think it's going to be super, super basic. But
Stay tuned for more at CitizenCon.
interestingly, this is a huge freaking sign. Let's go to the roadmap real quick. Because there is a feature, and this is actually something that I was talking about in the video for inventories I released last week. Somebody commented, one of the first comments that I got was like talking about how they shouldn't have put this new inventory system in the game if they don't have the ability for you to store loadouts. And I'm like, why wait? Yes, it's not great to have things that don't necessarily work exactly how they're supposed to, but what would be the point of waiting for this? Lockers. This is supposedly player interaction experience T1, and they haven't really talked about this, but this is building on the personal inventory, expanding the inventory UI to include lockers. Now, these are our lockers, right? These are suit lockers with our guns next to them. And the idea behind these, from what I remember, and I think I have a supporting video here where Todd Pappy was saying something, a little something. Suit lockers are meant to actually save your loadout. So rather than having to go over to your inventory and click all the different things that you want to have on your body, you can go to the suit locker, select that suit, and it comes with the full loadout that you already had equipped. So the med pens, the ammo, the helmet, all the pieces of the suit, I guess the weapons were on the wall next to it. But I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to work. Now, Todd says something real quick about it here in the beginning of this demo, but I don't remember exactly what he says. Let's see if we can. Let's see what it was.
So here we are waking up in 400i that will be released in 315. This is the competitor to the Constellation. Doesn't compromise cargo for vehicle storage. It's faster, more agile than the Connie, and it can run with a smaller crew.
Suck it, RSI.
So this is the captain's quarters, and then we'll go out and see a little bit more of the habitation deck, and then make our way to the cockpit. So this would be the social area that you can meet and eat and basically plan your next mission. And then from here, we'll go to the cockpit. So here we're over.
Hold on. Is this the wrong video? I could have sworn he said something about lockers here.
A bit more of the habitation deck.
No. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of 2019. The adventure begins. Oh, that's going to bring up a whole bunch of random stuff. Thomas the Tank Engine, of course. That's what we're looking for. Who am I kidding? Wrong video. No, I'm thinking of this one. Here we go. Sorry. Todd did a lot of demos.
So to let you guys know, because I think it leaked on Reddit because it said coming in February, we're not quite ready to have the Carrack in the initial 3.8 release, but it will be in a subsequent 3.8 release. So it's not waiting till 3.9. So I think in February it should be done, and that's mostly because we still have some sort of LED stuff to do and some damage stuff and some of the finishing touches of the tech stuff. All right, so let's
Get dressed.
So this is them trying to tease the lockers, of course, earlier than probably should have.
dress, put a jacket on. So it's the beginning of we're still working on some of our, but ultimately there'll be a lot more sort of physical inventory on what you're going to use, and you'll sort of see that why it comes into effect later on in the demo.
Okay, so no, they don't explain much about the lockers there. I thought that he said a little bit more data. It wasn't even Todd, it was Chris. But the idea that I'm pretty sure the way it works is that you pick up, I mean, you can see here, you don't have to go through an inventory to pick all these different pieces. You just come here and equip the suit. And that's one of the things that I think will really help to save time in the things that people consider time sinks in the game right now, is more of that sort of helping features like that. In the sense of how will everybody get bases on different places? Remember, we won't all be on the same shard. I don't know how many people are going to be playing this game. I don't. There are all kinds of numbers out there. There are millions of accounts right now, but I really don't see hundreds of thousands of people wanting to make bases in the same place. But even if they did, they'd probably be split between different shards. One of the things I want to try and do in the video I'm doing for base building this week is try to represent the size of one of these land plots on a moon, and then give the zoom out to show just how many land plots that size can be on one of these moons, because the space is ridiculous. Yeah, I would love these suit lockers. They are fantastic. Okay, so jumping back in time now, from that last video, this is just 2 years back in time, we're going to take a look at what they were saying about base building and the process of doing it back in 2017. A lot of stuff changes in 7 years, so don't take any of this as gospel, but all the stuff that they're presenting here is still guiding the design of what they want to do with this. And given these are mainly the same people, these Paul here and Todd here are no longer at the company, but Todd gave the presentation on base building last year, and a lot of the things they've talked about at this period, 2017, 18, 19, have still come to fruition at this point in different ways, from the physical touching of buttons to the EVA system to the cargo elevators and persistence and all that kind of stuff. A lot of it still makes its way to the game, just with small details change. So I wouldn't read too much into the crazy details they say here, but this should give a general idea of kind of where it's going.
Okay. So before you...
And of course we've got Tony Z here. Go on, give me the Tony Z jokes. I know they're coming. You can't give a Tony Z presentation without the Tony Z's in chat.
You can actually begin construction of your new outpost. You'll need to first select and purchase a plot of land. The value of that land, what you're going to have to pay in order to acquire it, depends upon a variety of objective criteria, as well as the seller's insight into that information, which we collectively refer to as knowledge. One of the things that we track for
jump
each section
forward a
of
little
land
bit
you're
here.
thinking about purchasing, if you're being asked to purchase a car and you haven't actually seen it, you're going to be very conservative in terms of your estimate of what it might be worth. If you're able to see it even from the exterior and verify there's tread on the wheels, the paint job looks okay, etc., then that's going to increase your perception of its value. If you're able to actually, turn the car on, make sure it's running, or better yet, have a mechanic, take a peek under the hood, then that's going to basically bring it, even farther up the scale. And so a lot of what we're doing, with the value of land, which ties over into the Pioneer, because you're going to be setting up these outposts ideally in optimal locations to exploit a lot of this value that's sitting on the surface of these planets. The next one up would be when the info was last verified. Knowing that there is, a vast abundance of gold at a particular area, but the information is stale. It's 2 weeks old, it's a month old, it's 6 weeks old. As it gets more out of date, it becomes less and less valuable.
That's that's data running right there. That's actually something I really, really hope they stick to when it comes to data running. If they're giving out little missions here and there, mission contracts even, not like you're doing this stuff on your own, but the local space station can assign you a mission of going to survey the resources on a given moon. It can pay you based on how old that data is, and the people who are purchasing that data can get discounts on it based on how old it is. I think that would be an incredibly useful way to keep exploration and data running active in different areas without having to really throw in too much extra. I mean, I say too much extra, but who knows how much effort that takes.
And so what this means is that players will routinely have to refresh, the knowledge of a particular area in order to maintain the perceived land value within the game. The last thing that I'd mention in regards to what constitutes knowledge is the value of location.
It's also, I think that's part of what influences a lot of people's idea of what exploration is in this game.
To a refinery, potentially at an outpost set up by one of these pioneers, then that ore field, the land that what you'd have to pay to actually purchase that land is going to rise in price. If on the other hand there's no refinery on that planet, and you have to basically spend 20 minutes basically carting the ore to another refinery and then getting it to its eventual destination, that's going to lower the lower the perceived value of that plot of land. So knowledge within the game is a really fundamental concept, and knowledge is a concept that once you've acquired it about a certain area or a certain object, you're able to transfer that to other friends, you're able to transfer that to organizations, you're able to sell that information to public information brokers, or freely submit it into the public domain.
God, I hope so.
So yeah, Tony talks about knowledge, what it all means, but to get that knowledge, you've got to go and find that area to figure out what's there. Is it right for you? And that's where all the exploration ships come in. You could take your Pioneer and do all this with your Pioneer, but it's probably not going to be the best ship for scouting locations. We've got a whole wealth of exploration ships that are designed for finding that information out. It's like you wouldn't take your oil rig out into the ocean and just randomly dot it down until you found what you wanted. They send the scouts out to find the best locations. So the ships you mentioned there's just a small range of the exploration ships, like the 315P, Terrapin.
Tyrus is in the chat. Somebody say it.
Exploration all have slightly different pros and strengths. So you've got the single ones, you've got the big crews, and they're just there to help find where you want to send your Pioneer to. You might find a nice location, but if you went there in your Pioneer, you're never going to find out where the refinery, like Tony talked about. You could build it and you find it's millions of miles away, and that's going to be a waste. So these exploration ships are really sort of key to finding those places.
Yeah, and one of the things we're aiming to do is make sure that there's a lot of gameplay associated with these high-level concepts. And by that I mean if you discover, if you're working your long-range scanners, you may find a previously unknown body, an asteroid that no one else within the system knows about, and there is a level of value related to that. If you work your dials a little bit and you've got the proper equipment and the skills, then without actually having to make the journey, you could increase the potential value of that knowledge find by being able to discern, the mass of the object. A large asteroid is going to be, all things, being equal, be worth more than a smaller asteroid. But if you really want to ratchet it up, and this kind of goes back to the degrees of knowledge that I was talking about, if you actually make the journey to it, fly over, burn fuel, burn time, brave whatever dangers are between you and there, and you actually do a flyover to the surface, then you may actually just visually see pools of hydrocarbons, of gas venting from the surface, and again that raises up what you know about it all the more. If you really want to get specific about what's there and maximize the potential value of that find, though, then you're going to have to set down on the surface, and you're actually going to take core samples, and you're going to basically have these processed, analyzed, and you're going to do things like seismographic surveys and have et cetera, et cetera. And so all of this plays
like conceptually speaking, this is a huge part of exploration in this game that never gets talked about. And we don't know how much of this will actually make it into the game, right? Or when. Tony Z Talks are notorious for having a lot of good details that are very fun to hear, but generally aren't in the game yet. And I think a lot of that is based around the simulation that they need to have in the game. But it seems like they're really trying to tie the concepts of base building or exploration together and saying that base building is not just about plopping down and building something. It's about finding the correct place for whatever it is you're doing. And we'll get into this later when we talk about the types of buildings you're doing and all that kind of stuff in this video, because in here, this is now talking about the resources you need and what kind of extractions are you doing and what are you looking for. And that, again, goes a lot more towards what the heck, who's going out and doing the surveying and finding the location for that. And that's why I think this is a process that it wouldn't just be for groups. The group might not even be the people who are doing the surveys. You might find an exploration-based org and have them go and do that stuff for you. Hey, go scout this whole system for us and find the place that has the best deposits of iron. And because you're in a specific system where there's not much iron, let's just say Banshee system or something, it could be a much more valuable find than it would be if you were in somewhere like Stanton or Terra or Magnus.
Into a common theme that we're trying to execute upon, which is all of these high-level ideas and stuff have a variety of different ways by which the player community can basically attack them, and by which these things will feed the outputs of one into the inputs of another.
So now that Tony's high-level idea of what land is and how we value it, I'm going to talk
also,
about...
by the way, thank you, Bald Leprechaun, for the sub. Hey, and good to see you, Citizen Jim. How you doing?
Tied to the Pioneer, a single-person organization can buy them, so on and so forth. Then we have the concept of UEE space, non-UEE space. If you settle in UEE space, you need to have a claim. If you're brave enough and you don't want to do it, you can venture out to non-UEE space, and then there you can find some of your shadier things that you want to do in the game. So if you do plant it in the UEE space, then the idea is that you get the protection from the UEE, in case somebody comes and attacks you and stuff like that. It will be transferable between players, like any good government. The UEE will actually take a cut of that in a title transfer cost. We're doing general licenses. Later on, the UEE will portion out licenses. So when it comes to actually claiming the beacon or claiming your land, you'll have a beacon interaction. So you set down your beacon. This is where I want to go. And either yourself, one of your teammates, or
anybody see yourself in this shot?
Information to the closest UNE.
Man, this is small compared to what it is now.
Office, and basically that's when it locks in, and now that land is yours.
Yeah, so one of my favorite aspects about just the overall concept of land is actually speculation. And the basic idea is that assume that you've purchased land and you've gone out and you either bought it with foreknowledge that it likely contain these minerals et cetera, or you discovered that yourself. And so now you're holding on to this land, and the decision you'll face is, well, do I basically extract that value right now? If whatever that land contains is currently in a bear market, it's not worth very much, then you may elect to basically wait to harvest whatever it holds until those particular commodities have price. And it sounds simple, but there's a lot of ripple effects to where we get really interesting knock-on gameplay effects. And by this I mean, when you own land, that doesn't prevent someone else from necessarily going in there and extracting those resources. Now, obviously, if you're doing this within UEE space and you basically sit down and you're extracting resources from someone else's property, then that's a criminal offense, and basically the game's security system will deal with them as appropriate.
See, and that's one of those times again where they mention a security system, and I'm like, will it be a security system? Please don't make them armistice zones. Like, give us just like ridiculously strong security. When we get to the later video and he talks about impenetrable planetary shields and stuff like that, like I hope that it's that, and it's not just, oh, your guns have been disabled. Oh, that building can't take damage.
Of course, the police aren't patrolling, every square inch of every planet, every asteroid, every moon, every minute of the day. And so you holding on to that property, waiting for, a better payday in the future has real implications in terms of, well, in addition to relying upon the system security, do you want to put your own sensors there so that you're alerted when someone else does something that you don't like on that area of land? So if somebody starts mining, you'll basically be notified, and then you and potentially your org mates can head out there and basically push them off. You may hire mercenaries to basically periodically patrol your land with a higher level of frequency than what the normal, the normal UE security forces would do. Basically, the equivalent of hiring your own personal security to, to keep watch, of your valuables. And I'm really just touching the surface here. I mean, another thing is it makes the point that you don't necessarily have to do the full end-to-end cycle in order to take advantage of this. You could, for example, buy land or discover land and then just flip the land after you've verified that it's got this, as opposed to you necessarily exploiting, mining, pulling up all of that material, which is a very particular type of gameplay that some people will love, but for other people, the discovery aspect or the security aspect, or on and on, if you have an interest in only one section of these areas, then you can still contribute to the overall equation. If you want to basically handle everything yourself, you can also do that.
Okay. So
Fair stir. Good to see you, dude. Welcome in.
And what I'm going to talk about is preparation. So first thing that you're going to do is you're going to need to do collect materials and add-ons from different stores. So you'll get materials from TDDs or refineries, and you'll be able to pick up some of the add-ons like Tony was talking about, remote sensors or extractors, solar panels, moisture extractors, geothermal pumps, landing pads, turrets, that kind of stuff. Now, what is very important to understand is, if any of you have ever done home projects, know what you're building, so that you don't do 5 trips to Hornbach to build something. So if you know what you're building, and then you know the resources that you'll save yourself multiple trips, or it will be one of those things where you'll need to have these resources brought to you. So that's gameplay, right? If you need resources for your base and you're at your end game goal and you're building a base or whatever, then you can put out the beacons, missions, whatever they call them. You can put out a call to local cargo haulers and be like, hey, we need this many resources delivered to this system. And suddenly you're making more gameplay for people who aren't at the stage of base building, but they still get to help because they can haul cargo. Maybe even you're making gameplay for somebody who has mined all that stuff. Somebody who has
mined that stuff and then stockpiled it in their hangar until they can find somebody who would pay a lot for that for aluminum, right? And then you hear that somebody's building a base in the planet next to you, next door. That's a weird saying, but a planet in your system, and you can give them the aluminum and sell it to them. That's why we need a player trading system for real. Like, we really need to be able to trade stuff like this and supply resources to other people. But I guess that's where the resource gathering missions come from that they've been talking about this year.
What do you want from your outpost? What's your gameplay intent? You know, do you want to be a moisture farmer and, you know, live and respawn there and basically look
Yeah, my
out
name's Lars.
this beautiful beach, or do you want it to be like a revenue generator? So basically you'll swoop in, you'll watch over it, you'll check in, make sure everything's running smoothly, move on to your next thing. So with this, we've got investment, not only from a resource and basically game money standpoint, at time to build. Not as fast as Paul's videos. So the other thing is, depending on the size of it, that will increase the build time the higher you go. Now, once it's actually placed, you're going to want to upkeep it. Depending on if you put something in Earth's atmosphere versus the Mars's atmosphere versus Venus, well, those are all different climates. And so the wear and tear and just kind of the usual stuff that we're doing with the ships, and as far as stuff breaking down, so on and so forth, this will be the same. So configuring. Now, the idea would be that you're working the architect station, you're choosing the exterior layout of it, and then from there, you'll move into the interior rooms. So some of the different interior options: habitation, armory, storage, med station, mining, refining, hydroponics. And so with this, depending on what you're doing, each one of them is going to require a different amount of power. And then that starts going into some of the add-ons. So if you're mining, or if you're doing something that's very, very power intensive, growing things, so on and so forth, then you're going to need to run extra power in there. And with the add-ons, just like with our ships, if you think of our ships as the base hull, and then you have your gimbals, you have your mounts, and then you're attaching weapons, you're attaching ordnance, you're attaching utility items. It's the same idea here. It's basically you have your base structure, and then you have these item ports like Chris always talks about, that will feed into the ore extractors, and that's how we generate the power. So here are just some of the internal shots. I think you guys have seen some of these already. I like the salad spinner, hydroponics, different mining ideas, storage. So one of the important things is basically if you're growing plants, or if you're basically dealing with any sort of bare form resources that will feed into our ecological system, then what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're actually storing these items, and so that you're not just mining once and then basically having to shut down because you don't have any more space. Drug lab. So in case you want to do a little Breaking Bad.
Of course, I would never.
Then idea about research and this.
And honestly, I feel like a research lab and a drug lab kind of go hand in hand.
Maybe you're close to the sun or something like that, and you want to research some solar flares or those types of things. Med station. So the main thing for us has always been a sandbox, and making sure that you have the freedom to focus on the gameplay that you find interesting. And so what we wanted to talk about was just some of the ecosystems that we feel these things help support and help build. You've got the haulers and traders that would be dealing with things that would come in, and if you're mining or if you're growing plants, well, these are going to take these to manufacturing or processing centers. Tony mentioned the security and the needing to actually protect your things, because I can guarantee you, if you're making money, people are going to want to take it from you. Exploration, John mentioned this about going and finding these plots of land and everything like that. And then there's repair, obviously mining, farming, and the refining stuff.
That's kind of
So-
why I feel like this is it's pretty end game, because it creates game opportunities for almost every type of player. Whether it's through building the base, finding the base, using the base, or even, attacking the base if you're in the kind of place where it can be attacked. And somebody did ask in chat, can you have a base that, will prevent bombers? Yes, they'll talk about that. And it depends on what kind of systems you're using or what star system you're building your base in, whether that is an unclaimed system, a system like Pyro, a very strongly protected UEE system like Stanton, stuff like that. So we'll get to that.
That is our panel.
So yeah, that is that's the 2017 talk, and this was really all surrounding the Pioneer release. So while this is an informational talk, and a lot of the stuff that they just said during that you're going to see almost verbatim in the 2023 talk from last year, which is why I say they do stick to a lot of these concepts. This really was all around kind of building hype around this ship back when it was released, a ship that we still don't have and probably are not close to having. So yeah. 2017 backers, stand up. I know you guys probably feel a little bit of a seething watching this, but this is the latter half of this talk, which is what we just went over, is, I think, incredibly informative of where they want base building to go in terms of driving the rest of the game, and does kind of lend itself to being one of the big things that makes the game actually have some meaning. A lot of people, we talked about this on the podcast this week with Buzzcut Psycho. There's a lot of things to do in this game, not a lot of reasons to do it. And I think this kind of stuff is why we need base building, because it gives a lot more reasons to do these kinds of things. It drives a lot of economy and stuff. And it's just generally, it's good times. Building bases is fun, especially when they're drug labs. What? Yeah. Yeah, I think... So, somebody else asked about this might not be great if there's not a lot of player density. The reason for the 90-10 split when it comes to AI versus players is so that players get the chance to fulfill these jobs for people. You get the chance to be the security or the repair or the mining person, but if nobody's around to pick that up, depending on how the system is supposed to function, if you're on a frontier system, it probably, obviously you wouldn't get as many AI there to help you. But if you're in a system like Stanton and you just so happen to be in a place where nobody is there to help, an AI can pick that up through the simulation, because generally your encounters will be more AI focused than player focused. And that's also because one of the things Chris used to focus on was just that two players competing or two players running into each other in conflict, one player loses. And you can try to make people lose gracefully or have fun while they're losing, but ultimately, from the gameplay perspective, it's easier, and some people might say more lazy, to just make it so that an AI is losing. So we don't have to care about AI's feelings. I'm sorry, any AI who's watching this in a few years and scrubbing through all the YouTube videos to find your enemies, I didn't mean that. We do care about your feelings, just not right now in the video game. So, if you're doing like toaster stuff, obviously, we don't want to abuse our toasters. But we'll have AI controlled toasters at some point. They learn how much brownness you like in your toast. Got any CitizenCon predictions? Base building. If that wasn't super clear already. I'm gonna put the hot take out there that we'll hear something about base building. Totally. Absolutely. Baby Junior, thank you for the sub on Twitch. Also in the 40s, 41 freaking months. That is amazing. Thank you so much for the support. And Primeval Matter, thank you for the Prime sub. I appreciate you. Hope you're enjoying the stream. Say thank you, Alexa, to save yourself. Is Alexa even gonna be around? Like, in terms of data scraping, I guess Amazon's got a lot of resources to do that with. We don't really mess with Alexa. We just got a Ring camera. So I guess it can see us. We need a system that can function regardless of player count. Yeah. Sometimes people gotta sleep. AI don't gotta sleep. Again, AI, I don't mean that. You can sleep if you need to. I promise. We're best friends. Okay? I'm a great pet if you take over the world, just saying. I'll make sure I poop in the right places. An enemy to olives. See, now that one I'll take. And unfortunately, our olive overlords are going to have to just kill me because that's never going to work out. Sorry. Game needs thousands of players in a server for it to be that game. Yeah, that's a lot of people. Do I feel like the architecture of these features is largely complete with the newsworthy progress only being reported as server meshing progresses? No. No, they just started working on this stuff. Like, even in this presentation from last year, it says it right here. Right here, yeah.
And then shield generators. And then the big one. We start development Q1. So,
yeah, they're not very far on this stuff, which is funny because, you know, this is 2017. But that's why when people are like, stop making the features, just focus on stability. It's like, what? We're missing so much. Why would we do that? Okay. Couple other videos we've got here before we get to the big presentation from last year. Just a couple mentions here and there of like base building kind of complications and stuff. Just little mentions. These aren't even that important, but it's fun when they mention base building because it adds a little more context to what they're thinking when they talk about it. So this is just like one tiny little mention here.
Its aesthetic obviously fits closer to more contemporary vehicle and military design.
This was a video about tank coming in, the Nova tank.
Just a little bit more near future.
I believe players would be interested in the Nova based on the upcoming gameplay where players are going to own land. They're going to have their own little bases. They're going to be probably trying to take over other people's bases. The Nova adds to this gameplay quite well, in fact.
So that might just be marketing, but they do talk several times about how ground vehicles will be part of bases and maintaining them and stuff. And I honestly don't know. I don't know. Maybe for orgs. But who wants to sit in a tank outside their base just waiting and waiting and waiting for somebody to come by and then realizing, nobody's going to attack me here because I have a big base and there's not that many big orgs around. So yeah, that was just one mention about defending bases, I guess. They can't just focus on what we have because what we have isn't enough of a game to focus on. Yeah, it's really not that much. Like, we don't have much reason. CIG needs to switch to Unreal Engine 5. Oh, let's have that talk, huh? The old Unreal Engine 5 upgrade. You wonder if the problems that CIG is having with the workforce not being able to have a team dedicated to work on bugs while everyone else works on developing the game more. Oh, they work on bugs. They work a ton on bugs. But I don't think... Because they can't have one team work on bugs all across the game. Because nobody in the whole company knows everything about the game's development, right? So they have all the teams working on bugs separately. If you go to the progress tracker, you can see it's I think the biggest segment of work that they have listed as one item is bug fixing. Here we go. Look at this. 41 teams assigned to bug fixing and tech debt. Now, obviously, they haven't updated it this year because they haven't updated the progress tracker, but like, they do a lot of bug fixing. It's just that everything's constantly changing, and there's kind of no point for a lot of the bugs to fix. Even if you go through to the monthly reports, you'll see half the stuff that they talk about in a lot of these reports. Not half of the stuff, but I would say some like 10% of what they talk about is just bug fixing. Fixing bugs in AI, fixing bugs in core gameplay, fixing bugs in blockade runner and hauling mechanics, debugging in the auto loading, bug fixing air traffic control and item banks, and bug fixing 324 release stuff. Like they're constantly bug fixing. It's just not enough. There's too much. You miss Mark Abent and Bug Smashers? That was a funny one. Miss Mark. I do. You hope base building means something approaching a player town? That'd be pretty wild. I wonder when the game will, like, they've got to have some sort of limit of how much players can build in proximity of each other, right? If you buy a 5x5 kilometer plot of land and you get your org to build as many buildings as they can in that area, how many buildings can we have? You wonder, as someone part of a large org, do you think CIG should make gameplay that can only be enjoyed if you are a member of an org? Well, yeah, I mean, not a member of an org, but definitely in org gameplay. I think there's going to be plenty of stuff in Star Citizen you can't experience if you're not in a group. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in an org, but there need to be more than one person involved, right? Like the idea of mining down a massive group of asteroids, refining them on the spot, and then shipping them off to a space station to sell. Maybe you can do that as a single player, but it could take you days or weeks of gameplay. Whereas with a group, you could do all of that all in a couple of hours, possibly 3 or 4 hours. Like, that's just one example, but I think as the gameplay we're doing scales up, you're just going to get, you know, specced out of that as a single player. It's not a bad thing. As a single player, you can do things that larger groups can't do. You'll be able to sneak into places that they won't be able to go. You'll be able to easily move back and forth and do different things. You'll have way more flexibility, and you'll be able to take missions and tasks from other groups to do the things that they find important, but they're not really that bothered to do. And that's why a lot of the stuff in this game might seem a little bit annoying to some people, because like picking up boxes and loading them custom into a ship and then flying them across the system might suck for you. But because it sucks for you, you outsource that work and it creates gameplay for the people it doesn't suck for. And I don't know if that's bad game design, because I've never designed a game, but it does seem like a good way to make sure that people can feel more specialized in their gameplay and get more opportunities to do stuff that they feel like matters. We have UE5 cookies. I think it was 5x5 kilometers. Let's see. Star Citizen land claims were... Oh, this is an ad? Why is this an ad? Did somebody link their referral code to this or something? Will players... Let's see. Will I have an advantage over other players if I buy a claim license? No. Licenses can be bought for UEC in-game, and no one will be able to claim the land before the mechanic is available in-game. This was like the one sentence that could have really decreased the amount of drama it created that they sold these beacons for land. Everybody thought they were selling the actual land. Oh. Hey now. Don't do that. Dude, I hate these old Star Citizen website links are so broken. The fact that they weren't selling the land, they were just selling the ability to get the land at some point is is kind of a big detail. Will players claiming the best plots of land on day one be an issue? No! Due to the billions of square kilometers available land over in many planets and moons, and of course, as the new star systems are introduced and explored, all players will have the ability to find and claim new hotspots throughout the lifetime of the game. Brother! Ugh, stop. Just like, don't. You're already loaded. Stop freaking out. Don't be weird. Okay, here we go. You guys already named it in chat. Thank you. 4x4 and 8x8. So, a lot equates to a patch of land roughly 4x4 kilometers, whereas an estate is 4 times the size at 8x8 kilometers. Okay. So this is just like a Q&A about claiming land, really. Does every player need a claim license? No, land claims are only of a benefit to those players who... Only if a, like, can I just freeze the web page? Stop. Stop trying to do things. So you only need a land claim if you're doing... Wait. I said wait, you ass. Take a screenshot. Yeah, good call. Haha, we've beat the system.
Hey, fuck my tomatoes up!
Yeah, so you only need a land claim if you're going into UE protection. And in the video we're about to watch on this, you'll get more context on that. Basically, you can be in UEE space and you have full protection from UEE, which I assume is like what we're going to have in cities, where basically nobody can do anything. Like, technically you could pull your gun out, but the AI security is going to mess you up. So that's UEE space. But if you're going into a place like Pyro or Nyx, then you have a lot more freedom to just do whatever you want. Print the web page and read it off a piece of paper. Like a true 2002 nerd. You have a quick question. In my opinion, do I think GTA 6 will affect the amount of players playing Star Citizen? Yes. Technically, every game affects the amount of players playing an MMO, right? Well, playing MMOs. To be honest, I think that they really got to look out for GTA 6 when they're releasing Squadron 42. Yeah, I know they're not really in the same genre, but GTA 6 is one of those games that will affect everything, everywhere, all at once. There was a funny tweet going around today about GTA 6 costing $2 billion and like taking 11 years to make. And, oh, forgot I can draw on this. Whee! And like, I know that GTA 6 is nowhere near the same sort of story as Star Citizen, but it is really funny how many little details bring them closer together. Like the whole server meshing thing. I think they're working on something that's similar to what CIG wants to do with building interiors. The development time took forever. They're doing a online version and a single player version in coordination. Like, games are getting big, man. Look, I drew the Stanton system. That's so many more planets than Stanton has. Is there something wrong with YouTube? I mean, it shows over 180 watchers, but only 29 likes. Thank you. Yeah, if you like the stream, it shows it to more people. Then we can indoctrinate them more and feed them tomatoes. Yeah, it sounds like GTA 6 is not coming to PC at launch. So I guess it won't have as much an effect, but like, I'm going to play GTA 6. I'll probably take time away from Star Citizen to play that game. Some people just don't have that time for that level of gameplay. SC is an expensive game to play, like in terms of the PC build, thus it has a more mature audience. And everybody who was excited for SC when it first started showing up is old now. Do I think CIG will make SC a cloud service game like Stadia? I don't think so. I think all their cloud costs got to go to server meshing, to be honest. But what do I know? You'll keep hope for more gore in the game, make it bloodier. I was about to make such a bad joke there. Good job, Tomato. GTA 6 doesn't have a variety of planets to explore. You don't think it compares to size at all? Oh, I'm not comparing them in size. No, that's... No. Not that. That would be... Yeah, GTA is definitely on Earth. Rumors are it was 1 to 2 billion, and who knows when they actually started working on it. I mean, I bet it was around the launch of GTA 5. You gotta see the cash cow that's waiting for you there. not going to play GTA 6, that is not your type of game. You know a few folks that are also not planning on playing it. Oh, I mean, not everyone's going to play it, of course. That'd be crazy. No game gets every player, not even close to every player. And, you know, GTA, as popular a game as it is, it's still a type of game. Now, I know Mrs. Tomato's going to be all over that. That's the first game I really, truly learned her love for. Okay, here's another segment that's talking a little bit about the stuff that we might expect with base building. This is, again, a very short mention, but it comes with a lot of complications. Many of you know about engineering and resource management. We think about it mostly when it comes to our ships. They've teased a little bit of it being also included in outposts and space stations, but it is also a complication when it comes to bases. So even if you're an engineer, base building can bring on some end game content for you. Any of my good citizens in chat right now who have played Satisfactory know that power management when it comes to building a base can be a whole fucking trip. So it's not to be taken lightly, but here's just a quick mention talking about that as well. Again, very quick.
Only caters towards the engineer. This will be something that is valuable for everyone in the world of Star Citizen.
Resource management will finally allow players to build their own bases and their own homesteads and actually keep that loop engaging and fun.
And really, this is the main thing.
There's the mention. That's it. But I'll let this play a little bit more. Yeah, I'll let this play a little bit more so you guys can hear like what is included in this resource management system. Now, we've seen a lot on this recently with engineering, but this will go into a little bit of detail about how all this works. So they're going to talk about it based on your ship here. Just imagine instead of ship, they're mentioning outposts. Is there any chance I'm going to make a video on everything a player should know about the update since 3.23? Haven't really had time to watch each video. Love the content. The 3.24 update? Yeah, I'll make something that's covering the different stuff that's in it when it goes live. For sure. 4.0 is... Oh my god. I don't even know what to do for 4.0. That might be multiple videos. That's going to be pretty wild. But yeah, check this out. And remember, this applies to building bases, not just ships.
Engineer, mechanic, tactical officer. And while you have your engineer trying to maintain all the resources functioning and flowing perfectly and all the items in good operation, you will have mechanics running throughout the ship, trying to change fuses, repair various things that have broken down. You will have tactical officers moving shields from one side of the ship to another in order to counter whatever incoming damage you have. Obviously, the pilot is going to be doing his job, trying to move the ship out of harm's way. The gunners are going to be taking out enemy incoming fighters or other ships. This is how we envision this entire ecosystem just coming together and providing what we hope is true multi-crew gameplay. And for all of you out there that are waiting for the Idrises and Javelins and want to use these ships, this is the system that is going to make using those ships possible. So all that said, this is a really important system for Star Citizen, but let's dig into the details and see what exactly this is. Resource management can be broken down into several key elements. Power, energy resources, life support, item maintenance, relay handling, access control, and gravity. So let's start with power, energy, and resources.
Okay.
The players can...
Just straight off the bat, I'm realizing the idea of access control on ships doesn't even hold water to access control in bases. Holy crap. Base building can get so complex in this game. I know it won't be, I keep using Satisfactory as an example. I know it won't be that deep. But if you can have both resource extractors, crafting facilities, and places where you can build, like if you can both extract resources, create goods, and then have hangars where ships are landing to sell those goods, you could have the entirety of Star Citizen's game loop in one location and have people maintaining and running that location. You might not even have to leave a base. Now, the cool part is that, I'm sorry, this is not a flattering. the cool part is that they have different ideas for where people are going to spend all of their time when they get really deep into this game. So we've looked at building interiors with apartments. They're doing apartment complexes and habs where you'll be able to live and spend your time and then take off from a city and go somewhere. They're looking at space stations where you'll be able to live and take off and go somewhere from there. They might even have player-built space stations. We don't know just yet. And then obviously you can use your ship as your home base where you're just spending all your time on your ship, living on the go, being a nomad. But then there's also this with bases, which would be pretty cool. Suspect it'll be a lot like Fallout 76 bases. I haven't played that one. So I do not know how deep that goes. I just hope that, well, we'll get to what they talk about when it comes to specific buildings.
Gravity. So let's start with power, energy, and resources. The players can choose to overload items in order to get more efficiency out of them at the risk of burning them out. They can also underload items to save some resources if they don't need the full efficiency of an item. The players will have to pay attention to the balance of resources, power, fuel, coolant, heat generated, in order to maintain a well-oiled and balanced ship. And overall, prioritizing certain items and their resource consumption.
Life support is the most important thing you have to pay attention to in your ships now, since atmosphere is finite in all the spaces that you might discover. And here, the life support system is a key factor. Here, the life support, you have to maintain it, meaning you have to make sure that the consumables inside the life support generator are always there to make sure that it can generate breathable atmosphere for you, or the temperature is actually increased to a human livable factor, so you don't freeze to death, or you are not cooked.
As part of item maintenance, the player will be able to control items throughout the ship, turn them on, turn them off. They will be able to remove broken items and replace them with new items, or sometimes dodgy items, depending on their income. It will be able to control which sub-items are installed in those items, either as fuses or subcomponents that give them various bonuses to that specific item. They will be able to run repair gameplay and replace broken fuses when the item stops working or takes enough damage.
Relay handling is the actual management part that you, as the engineer on the ship, you have to do there. It's basically defining the circuits in the most effective way, especially for bigger ships. So a relay is something that defines which items are connected to each other. And what we want to achieve here is allowing you to create the best possible outcome for your ship.
With access control, we're introducing ship roles. The captain will be able to assign certain roles to each of his crewmates, and, for example, say one of the player becomes the engineer, which gives them specific access to certain controls, while the person that is the pilot will not have access to those controls. At the same time, a gunner will only have access to a specific gun or all the guns on the ship.
And finally, gravity. So gravity is the concept that you experienced already in every ship. So there's always a ground, there's always a down, there's always an up. And we would like to give you some more control over that. So because it requires some energy, and if you want to run your ship more energy efficient, we want you to allow to switch off gravity. Or there might be other use cases where a zero gravity environment is more useful than another one.
So if it wasn't clear by now, the scope of resource management touches pretty much every aspect of life in Star Citizen.
Going outside of the whole base building aspect of it, when they talk about this stuff, when it comes to ships, I always go back to the Expanse. The idea of just venting your ship, getting your spacesuits on, and maybe turning off gravity when you're in combat so that all that power can go towards the things that are actually important in combat.
A lot of talking, but I bet what everyone would like to know is where are we with all of this right now? Currently, we have working in-engine prototypes of the following systems: power, gravity, life support, and the relay network. With a power system, we can overpower and underpower items. We can set the priorities of item producers and consumers inside the ship, and we can set the path of resources inside the ship through the resource relay network.
And with the power system, we already can distribute the base energy and base fuel throughout the ship. So we can make sure that each item actually gets the resources they need. Creating your own resource path is basically defining the routes, or the most efficient routes that the energy or the resources have to take throughout your ship.
So this is just showing how the power management actually works.
We can also demonstrate many aspects of the life.
We've already seen this.
Including.
If you haven't already tried this in Arena Commander, everybody has access to this system at this point, so you can try this out for yourself. So we won't get to. I guess actually these demos are pretty interesting. The actual idea of replacing relays and stuff, though, is already in the game. Technically, it's in Arena Commander, but it's coming in 4.0 to the rest of the game.
Making new players suffocate.
So this is more like the life support stuff, venting a room, all that jazz. Oh, I 100% believe this is the exact same system we'll have in base building. That's the only reason I'm showing this.
Fire expulsion.
This is showing how you can see there the fire burning is both raising the temperature and lowering the oxygen level. This is something they talked about on Inside Star Citizen last week. Dude, I love suffocating on my ships. Randomly running through my ship and just dying of suffocation because there's a pocket of vacuum. It's great.
Change the temperature in each room. Making new players suffocate.
This is what I do when I'm suffocating. I just start rocking back and forth very quickly. This is not sped up. This is real time.
Making new players suffocate. Venting and filling rooms with atmosphere. and making players suffocate again.
God, they just love that, don't they? So yeah, that's mainly the life support stuff. The problem is once this gets implemented, we all know there will be bugs that end up causing atmosphere loss in ships and stuff for no apparent reason and cause us to die. Welcome to Star Citizen. I feel like that happens all the time already. But yeah, I mean, this is the way I see it. We kind of want that. Like, we want them to put this in so that we die from the bugs, so that they fix those bugs, so that when the game's actually ready to go, they're not there. Otherwise, like, imagine if they waited to drop this in until the game was at 1.0. They were like, okay, everybody, come on in. Good luck. Hope there's no bugs. This is just showing the way that the power gets triggered by fuses and you can turn off shields. We've seen this in game. So that's mainly, that was again mainly to focus on life support, but I believe all of that will be applied to bases in the same way too. So then there's this. Now, this I think is great because this talk all the way back here in 2017, I don't know if you guys remember that. It was that long time ago of about an hour. A lot of the things that they said at this talk that we watched in the beginning of this, you're going to hear again in this talk here. So let's dive into this and see what kind of details they got for us.
Come on, I can't hear you. All right, there we go. So, we'll be talking today about something special. It's an update on something that we talked about a little while ago, but we feel it's the future of Star Citizen, and it's the actual culmination of multiple different game systems coming together. So why don't you play the video?
You can hear the part of this when everybody realized this was a base building video. Yeah, this is last year's CitizenCon. totally gonna be the person that just like tractor beams this little support here and watches this whole section fall down. Even this music sounds like Satisfactory to me. They just have the best marketing. So, like, they're so good at marketing.
So base building.
But also
it breaks
not.
down into two really large gameplay sections: planning ahead and prepping, and then you've got
Okay,
the on-site.
so
where
like,
you're at.
that's literally what they said here, right? It's the same deal. Planning ahead, finding your spot, and then prepping your location with the ownership. So this is, and it's the same guy. He's right here.
Actually going to build. So with that, you need to figure out what your goal is. Is it to have a home with a nice view and relax? Is it to have a trading post where you want to create and sell items? Is it to gather resources available and move on to the next area? Or is it to be off grid and be completely self-sufficient? So with that, with your prep and everything like that, we've got blueprints. So the recipes. Everything in the game is fabricated from a blueprint. Players acquire blueprints via reputation rewards, missions, or rare NPCs.
Say it. Pledge store. Say it. They didn't say it here. But what are the chances that blueprints are... actually, maybe they won't do that. That would really, really hurt this game loop if they actually sold blueprints. I hope that they don't try and use it as monetization. Like, I could see them maybe doing base modules, but hopefully not when it comes to the actual crafting. And this is where I feel like they kind of... It doesn't stray away from base building, but it definitely brings the idea of crafting more into focus too. Because they've never really talked fully about the crafting system. This is just kind of thrown in there with the base building. But this feels like it's about building other stuff, not just the bases. Eve gave away blueprints originally when they came out with them as a lottery system. It was a problem later. Yeah, I hope they don't put this stuff on the pledge store. That'd be not great.
With any blueprint, you can actually do research on it and then create different variations. With materials, ranging from the common to ultra rare, you might find them at the local shop or have to travel around the universe to collect them. Unrefined, refined, simple materials, or even complex components will all go into the fabrication. With this, then you got location, location, location. First area is high security, so you must purchase the land. The base is...
yeah, that's a good point. I would take concept images with a grain of salt, but it does look like they've physicalized the blueprints here. So these will be something... I mean, they do say you can find them via shopkeepers. This could be something that you find in loot boxes. This would make for such good loot. If you could find, instead of just finding a special weapon, you found the blueprint to craft that weapon, and they're a limited supply, and you're able to just hoard that with your base, or with your org. Imagine if there was like a blueprint for the Volt weapons, and they're really, really hard to find, and there's an actual battle between two groups just to get that blueprint so you could craft that gun. And this could also be how they handle data transfer, data sharing, data running, tie it to physical objects. You don't see that just for cosmetics? Yeah, think I could sell cosmetic stuff. As long as it's not tipping the scales of the game, and even cosmetic stuff in terms of these blueprints, it could be not great. I think selling a one-offs is one thing, but selling a blueprint, which basically unlocks your ability to manufacture that stuff, that's a lot of power. Yeah, it would be really nice content if blueprints were physicalized like that. Should look into Eve blueprints. Are those kind of like that? They're physicalized in a way? Hope you can sell and share blueprints in the game. That is exactly how Fallout 76 does it. They physicalize everything so you can trade them and stuff. Again, where's our player trading system? Gib.
Materials or even complex components will all go into the fabrication. With this, then you got location, location, location. First area is high security, so you must purchase the land. The base is actually invulnerable because the planetary shield tech.
Okay, there you go.
Will show up to protect it as well.
So this is what I'm hoping they do for everything. This was a big part of the video I released last week about the man, what was that? About security systems. I don't know how clearly that video expressed what I was trying to say, but I want armistice zones to go, not so that we can just start killing and murdering people freely, but so that they can replace it with stuff like this. Super high protection that basically means you're still completely safe, but it's a gamified solution that can have some little things thrown in. The example I always use is somebody who is a bounty hunter who has a lot of trust with Hurston and a lot of trust with the bounty hunting guild is able to bring non-lethal weapons into Lorville and use them without getting in trouble, whereas everybody else has to turn their weapons at the customs place. Not only does that allow people to have basically a license to carry if they're a very trustworthy person, but it also means that you can find other places to smuggle into cities, so they can build alternate entrances into cities where people, if they know and they have that kind of criminal flair to them and they know how to get around, they can still sneak a weapon into the city and do something with it. You had a couple original blueprints in Eve. They were great. Does that mean like people could create blueprints off of those originals? And they, what, degrade the specs or something? Oh, you can upgrade and make copies, but copies are less powerful than the originals. Okay, yeah, something like that would be amazing. I hope that's what they're looking to do here. EVE Online had a blueprint system. You could buy limited run blueprints. Originals were super valuable because you could make the limited run prints with them. That's sick. That's really cool. You have access to an abundance of excellent food, so you'll definitely be okay. Good. Good. We don't like eating good food in front of people who don't also have good food. That's why they implemented the ability for players to send money to one another. Yeah, to like trade stuff. Just do the research. It's too complex to explain sufficiently. I'll look into it. Give a thumbs up. Let's break 200 viewers. Yo, are we almost at 200 on YouTube? That's sick. It'd be nice and work faster if they constructed locations with a rubber stamp where everything looks the same, but then a refinement team goes back and makes each unique. That's a really cool idea. The limited runs, the original blueprints, and then creating stuff based off of those. I like that a lot. I really hope that they do that in this game. All right, let's keep listening in. This is, again, what a lot of people were asking about in terms of, can your base be protected? Can you get bases in places where they're not protected? Can people attack you? That's all in this slide.
Because the planetary shield tech, a security will show up to protect it as well. You pay for the privilege. You're taxed. So at this point, you won't have the best resources available. You won't have access to the best resources available on the planet. If you don't pay your taxes, the shields will go away after a period of time, and the base will become derelict and will collapse.
Dang government with their taxing.
But this is low risk, low reward. Then you've got low security. So again, you must purchase the land. It's owned by an independent corp, gang, or faction. Again, you don't have access to all the best resources on the planet. The base is vulnerable. AI NPCs will show up and protect the base if it's attacked. The protection will escalate over time. Player can also build defenses to help mitigate this as well. And then it's medium reward, medium risk. Then you've got lawless. So this is no protection other than what you build. There's shields.
No
anti-air.
taxes.
Players can disable the shields by getting close to them and destroying them. High risk, high reward. Since there's no tax.
So you still have shields even in these locations, even in the no security stations locations, but they can be destroyed. Did he say these can be destroyed in low security? I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to that.
Then you've got low security. So again, you must purchase the land. It's owned by an independent corp, gang, or faction.
So that's probably a place like Nyx, maybe. Or I wonder if they would split this up between different systems. This might not even be dependent on star system, but rather on the location of the star system, or in the star system you're at.
Again, you don't have access to all the best resources on the planet. The base is vulnerable. AI NPCs will show up and protect the base if it's attacked. The protection will escalate over time. Player can also build defenses to help mitigate this as well. And then it's medium reward, medium risk.
Okay, so it sounds like in the high security locations, you don't even have to worry about building your own defenses. See, that's a huge cost savings, time savings. Somebody said they don't want to have to run 5 missions to make a turret. High security would be for you.
Then you've got lawless. So this is no protection other than what you build. There's shields, anti-air. Players can disable the shields by getting close to them and destroying them. High risk, high reward. Since there's no taxes, no protection fees, you get a high return on the resources that you collect. Now, there's some cross-shard and server meshing considerations that will kind of adjust this design in the future, but we'll get into that later once we're really building it. So from here...
Yeah, it is pretty similar to how Eve does it, but I know that the reason I say maybe it will not be based on the star system is because that does lead to certain star systems, specifically null space, as far as I'm aware, in Eve, having some trouble. Being a lot less populated by players who aren't necessarily looking for complete danger. I think they would want to have low security or no security areas in a place where you're still going to find your normal player, so that there's a little bit of intermingling. But I can see from a gameplay standpoint how that might be difficult, because people just want to be as far away as they can from danger. And that's not just player on player danger. This is 90% of what we encounter could be AI. So this is also including just dangerous AI who get really annoying. How many of you guys have been going to some random outpost in Stanton and a pirate spawns out of nowhere and they start shooting you as you're landing and you're like, bruh, why are you even here? Why did you spawn? You don't understand how nullsec space and server meshing will work. Someone can attack you on a different shard. How will you defend it? I don't think they'll attack you on a different shard. I think this will be linked, your base will be linked to your shard, and then that's that. But it does sound like they have some things that they're still figuring out from that aspect, so I don't know. But yeah, in the Stanton system, building a base on Microtech is probably going to be different from building a base on Yella. It's always a Cutlass Black. Well, you know what they say about Drake ships. So will the base still be in danger when we are offline? That's not something they specified here, but I'm imagining that is the case. Which is why generally, if you are a solo player and you're building a base by yourself that nobody else can attend to, high security would be best. But they did say even with low security, AI and NPCs will go and defend your location. So there's a lot of still very particular details we have to learn about this system. This is like one slide, and he's clearly going through this fairly quickly, and we're not hearing everything about this right now. Yeah, we definitely need the faction gameplay to come into this game. I'm a little worried at how little they've talked about factions with Pyro, but we'll see if they start to ramp up that discussion as we get closer to 4.0. We really need factions to start to be a thing in this game. Like freeform factions, not just, oh, you ran a mission for this faction, good job. Now you can go frickin' that faction up and they won't be mad at you or something like that. Like, we need factions that are just people out in ships, in space, in security, at outposts, in caves, all that kind of stuff. Really looking forward to actually seeing server meshing working full steam. Brother, where are the server meshing tests in the tech preview? How are we in August and we still haven't run more server meshing tests? I'm like actually a little bit dumbfounded by that. Catch up gamer, you got it right. If you try to play that out logically, that means they would have to assign a single unique shard to each homestead, and if the shard is full, what happens? If there are more than 100 players try to attack your base, someone gets put on a different shard, or they just don't let you get close. Do you mean servers? Because shards are like completely different universes from each other. Like North American shard versus European shard kind of thing. The servers would be, if for server meshing, I think you would always end up on the same server in that location if you're on the same shard. Server meshing is on the roadmap for 4.0. They don't need us to run server meshing tests, but like, he literally, let me take us back. Let's take a trip back in time to the good old days. Man, I don't even know where this was. This?
That's every ship or a staggered rollout of groups of vehicles depends on how work progresses. But it's a major change to the way spaceships operate in the persistent universe, and you can be sure that we'll update on it more when the time comes. And of course, when your ships aren't in flight, they can be stored in the newly persistent hangars that are arriving with freight elevators, freight kiosks, and the new cargo transaction system that we've shared on both ISC and this year's CitizenCon. Now, all combined, they form the next major evolution of cargo careers and will also have far-reaching, broader implications for the entire Star Citizen experience. And then outside of vehicles and hangars, there's also a variety of FPS combat improvements coming to the first half of 2024, with improvements to reloading, the weapon, or we'll be able to show you once we return in the new year. And then outside of strictly FPS combat, there are new player character features coming, like the updates to the EVA system, the visor and lens system, loot screens, default item interactions in the personal interaction system, and there's even new shopping and mission apps in development now. And while we're talking about apps, the first half of 2024 is also currently scheduled to see the arrival of our new character customizer with things like tattoos, piercings, scars, and yes, Virginia, it's true, beards. And as for how many and of what kind, only Andre knows for sure, but you can bet we're gonna ask him sometime around March. And then, of course, if you're in-game, there's also a little thing called Mobiglass and an awfully big thing called Star Map. They're both getting their big updates in the first half of next year.
We've seen a lot of this stuff in the game.
Enormous distribution centers that'll be the new microcosm homes for every gameplay and mission feature that exists in Star Citizen, as well as the 4, 5, 6, let's just say several new and updated vehicles that are making their way to the persistent universe in just the first 6 months of 2024. I did, just now. Now you can check those off. Whew. Okay. So, real talk, CIG hat back on. Now, you're probably looking at your screen and saying to yourself, what about Pyro and 4.0? Well, don't fret. The things that we just covered are those that aren't too dependent on continuing foundational tech work like server meshing. so we feel pretty confident in targeting everything that we just shared for the first 6 months. But when it comes to something as enormous as the complete Pyro system in Alpha 4.0, well, that's where the new preview channel comes into play. Now that said, Alpha 4.0 is currently targeting a summer 2024 release.
Okay, so you didn't actually say how many times it was going to be on the preview channel, but I feel like we haven't seen the preview channel utilized more than a couple of times this year. So I know they can be testing server meshing. It just seems like we are both not hearing about it and also not seeing it ourselves. And this is probably coming more from a perspective of somebody who's a little bit too closely following this stuff. Like on the daily, I'm spending 6+ hours looking into all of this stuff. It feels I don't know. When that's the most important thing in the last 8 years of the game for us to interact with, it just sucks that we haven't seen it really all that much, or been able to test it. And I think it was like earlier in the summer when they mentioned that it was coming back to the preview channel at some point this summer, but I don't think it has. So that's all I mean. I know they can test it on their own. I know they can run the tests as much as they need to without us. They've got the cloud test launcher. They've got their QA division. They've got their internal stuff. But as far as the preview tech channel is, it just feels like we haven't really seen much of it. I actually want to say there was...
Because in 2024, we'll continue doing play tests like the one we just completed, and you'll be able to follow along with its development firsthand on the preview channel.
Right.
That's the planets, moons, space stations, settlements, and outlaw lifestyle that comes within the Pyro system, but also an entire host of additional new features, content, and quality of life improvements like, oh, I don't know.
I think he says hacking here.
Fully functional jump points, the new quantum travel system, new vehicle HUD and MFD work, resource management, hacking, and much, much more.
So, new quantum travel system, new MFD rework, hacking, planets from Pyro. I don't think, at least those first three, we haven't seen those in a preview channel. And Pyro, I think we've only seen maybe once or twice this year in the preview channel. I'm not going to say let's hold them as promises. Things change throughout the months. But I don't feel like, I'm not very confident hacking is coming this year. Maybe it is. It's not even on the roadmap for 4.0 though. So it just feels like we've definitely, they've slowed the roll a little bit on that rollout. I don't think the meshing people were doing anything on 324. I think they're still working on their stuff. You know, they're hard at work at what they're doing, but it would be great to know a little bit more about it. And maybe at this next roadmap roundup, they said that they're going to have a little bit of a progress tracker update and more of a say on what's going on for the rest of the year. So maybe we'll see it then. I do hope that after 324 goes live, I mean, what else can they talk about, right? We got to start hearing more about the testing for 4.0. I know somebody said they heard a rumor for 325. I doubt they're going to do that. They would just hold off on 4.0, I think, and release it later in the year. They just had a server meshing special where they were very satisfied with progress. They're fine. Folks are just anxious. Yeah. We are anxious. We're fucking anxious. Dude. Oh my God, I'm so anxious. Like, I've been doing this for years now. Actual years. Go to my freaking YouTube channel, and my second most watched video ever is a 4.0 update from 2022. I'm so tired of being caught out like that. I would really love for some more news on it. And I do appreciate that they came out and did a little checkup on server meshing and what's going on with it, but it didn't really tell us much about what they were doing in terms of testing going forward. And that's probably what makes people anxious, you know? You don't want to sleep, you want to fly spaceships. Dude, I want to be anxious inside of spaceships, okay? That's my ultimate anxious place. Makes me feel comfortable anxious. Comfious, if you will. For what it's worth, the last tech preview was with 0.22 controls. Pre-master mode seems like they would be with 23. If it could be, but wasn't. Yeah, you know, like they said, no point in making a new build to test the same stuff. I get that. Okay, sorry. That was hugely distracting. Back to this.
No protection fees. You get a high return on the resources that you collect. Now, there's some cross-shard and server meshing considerations that will kind of adjust this design in the future, but we'll get into that later once we're really building it. So from here, you've got the tools. So this is what we would consider a surveyor. With this, we want to actually cater to everybody's playstyle, whether you're solo or in an org.
Does this trigger anybody? Can you see that? Hold on. Does this right here trigger anyone? Hover trolley for the surveyor? Watch yourself.
With this, you got different buildings that you can produce, from small, medium to large to XL or XL. So with the surveyor tool, you can only build the small buildings.
Brother, Azon Keel in the chat. Holy crap. Welcome in, dude. Good to see you. I hope you're doing well. So these are the steps of the base building. Like we talked about in the very beginning of this whole thing, the top dollar, the big spot, the thing you really want to build with is this bad boy.
The Pioneer.
Not gonna lie, I feel like you need more thrusters than this to carry something this big.
With that, let the new age of colonization begin.
Dude, I bet his character model is gonna look so much better the next time they whip it out. So that's the Pioneer. That's the big boy for building a lot of stuff, but they're trying to do smaller things because obviously not everyone can get a Pioneer. And you are not going to always build a big, gigantic thing. Sometimes you just want to build a little sleeping bag. Don't know why you'd build a sleeping bag, but maybe you do. Maybe that's your thing.
With a vehicle, you can build small and medium-sized buildings. With the Galaxy, you can build small to large structures. And then obviously with the Pioneer can do it all. And it still works as a mobile base. And we'll talk about some of the more expanded features that we're adding to it.
I'm very keen on the Galaxy. I love the styling of this. I think this is one of the first ships I'm going to aim to buy in game when it's finally out. This thing is such a freaking powerhouse. Modular, can do base building, can do refining, can have a hangar for your ship. Holy crap, man. The Galaxy is amazing. Is there a way to see how many Pioneers have been purchased? No. But if we start adding concepts to our org website, we could probably see how many Pioneers we have in our org at least. Which is information I will not divulge publicly. Because reasons.
You're on. So, and then it's also, we're exploring what can be done in space, not just on the planet. So from here, you set off on your journey.
It's like a little teaser that we're going to be able to maybe build space stations. Maybe.
So with the land claim, you put your tool down where you want. You launch the drone that is built into the machine. And then from there, this allows the player to access the base building and also land claim mode.
Did I pledge a Pioneer?
Modes, the player can actually change.
The most expensive pledge I have ever paid for is, I want to say a 135C, I believe. $70 something, something like that. I would absolutely godforsaken not. Oh, no, yeah, it would be the Raven. You're right. Good call. Yeah, the Raven I bought off of eBay. So I forgot about that. The most expensive thing I have purchased is a Raven. And besides that, I guess like a 135 or something like that.
Change the size and position of what area they want to claim, and it also shows you the cost and taxes associated with it. If it's in a taxable zone and you don't own the land, this interface will default to it. So if you own the land or it's in a lawless area, it'll automatically go to base building mode. So with the overhead view of the land, you can actually place down buildings exactly where you want. You can see the resources beneath the surface, and then you can also place multiple buildings before you actually build. So you can see how it will all kind of come together. You'll see the resources that are needed for it. And then you can also switch back and forth between different modes, which are showing off the resource network and how you link basically power generators to consumers. And then the player can move or deconstruct existing buildings right now with no charge. So this is going to use a system called Rastar. And let's see if we can pull up a video about that. This is the system they actually already use to build outposts. See if they talk about, yeah, so this will kind of show us a demo of it. Technically, the ships are gifted by my employer, if you consider the community my employer. The most expensive ship I fly around is the MSR. That was gifted to me by one of our lovely community members. The second most expensive ship I fly around was also gifted by a community member. After that, it's mainly referrals. So, yeah, I'm going to do a video on that at some point on my hangar. Jesus, that's loud.
So here we are on Daymar. I'm going to give you a little sneak peek of the Rastar tool in action and how we build up a location from scratch. So the first thing that we would usually do, not in this case with the UGS because they already
Dude, I wish I had mortgage claim payments.
But we do a little bit of location scouting on the planet to find a nice, cool location. So I'm going to open up the Rastar tool over here, and the first thing that I need to do is create a location. Before I go any further, I do need to say that the UI for the Rastar tool as it stands is not the final version that the players are going to see at the end of the day. This is purely for artistic and development purposes, and I will say it has definitely come a long way in the 2 years that I've been using it. So the first thing we do is
I hear this tool has been a pain, but I can't confirm or deny. I can't deny. I can't confirm that. I've just whispers and murmurs.
We get this grid on the ground over here, which allows us to define the location size and apply different effects and statuses to the location.
Fun fact, though, when they first were building outposts, the reason they all had stilts and they couldn't really place many of them down on the ground was because they couldn't deform the land of the actual moon or planets until the Planet Tech team reached Planet Tech V4. Once they got to that point, then they were able to actually place something down and it would automatically change the way the terrain looked around it. That's why they can now make more natural looking town-like and real building-like outposts in the Pyro system.
The center point of this location. The cool thing that Rastar enables us to do is also have certain modifiers and volumes applied to our object containers, so that, for example, if I were to move this location up, the terrain would automatically conform to the ground.
Okay, I did not know he was going to say that right then.
That needs to be. That just saves artists a lot of time from having to do these sort of things manually and allows us to focus on the creative side of things. The next thing we need is 3 turrets. These turrets, depending on whether you are at a security UGF or a drug UGF, will react in different ways to the player. Obviously more hostile in a drug environment than if you were in a normal friendly environment. So these will go just dotted around the place, and these currently don't have any turrets spawned on them, but they do that when I hop into game. The next thing we want to do is we want to focus on large to small shapes and dressing. So the first thing I might do over here when walking through this process is get some of these larger clusters, these shipping containers. The UGFs are used.
So what I'm betting, and this is something that I think is done in a lot of building games, is like you get a little outline of what you're aiming to build, and then you set it down, and then some drones come out and they build it for you in that time. I do wonder how you can upgrade those drones and stuff to make for better building time, or or how you can decrease that building time based on your subscription level to the game. I know. I keep going back to monetization because it's natural.
We might have one over here, and then maybe let's spread this location out a little bit. Maybe let's have a little bit of dressing near these turrets. So I'll grab one of these clusters. Cool thing with Rasa, you can also do like quick rotates before you play stuff, so you have a good idea of what stuff is going to look like before you do. Just like to get a little bit of unevenness to the terrain over here, helps things from feeling too flat. And let's get one of these larger structures in the back over here, these sort of like chimneys. So this is how I would normally go about creating like 3 distinct separate locations, even within one larger point of interest. So now the point from this afterwards would be to just create paths leading to and from the UGF that would naturally draw the player in, and then to set dress with smaller elements. So there's some more functional things that I do need to do first. For example, the UGF does come with these 3 floodlights, but we might need extra areas of illumination elsewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and place some extra floodlights around here. When the Raster tool is turning red like that, it's just doing a collision check on all of the objects around it to make sure I'm not placing anything on top of each other, and just making sure everything is kept neat and tidy. So I might need to just place it over there, and then if I want it closer, I can always snap it to a surface closer.
Forgetting you bought a Galaxy?
Now that everything should be able to be visible at any time of day or night, since we are working with a very dynamic time of day over here, now I want some more functional things like roads leading up towards the UGF.
Roads!
So we have these over here. Might be a little bit small to see. Just like a generic path that leads up to the UGF. I'm just going to do a quick rotate over these. And then, of course, all of our normal editor functionality is also linked to the raster location. So, for example, if I want to align this road to the UGF, then I can just rotate that, make sure everything's nice and centered and where it needs to be.
Where's my asphalt?
Okay, so now that I have my roads placed, I have my floodlights placed, I know I'm not going to be crashing into anything in terms of placing stuff at the raster location. Now I can go ahead and do a little bit of dressing around here. So getting in some small shapes, just some scatter around the location. Then I'll go ahead and grab some of the more functional looking things. That one. Structure 8. Some big shapes over here that we can surround. Go, have the terrain adjust to that. And then bring in some of these. Just got to make sure that things aren't intersecting or clipping between each other too much, because that never looks good. And let's start building this out a little bit more. So this is the process that we follow to create a fully fledged location. We set dress all the different elements. We play it from a player perspective, because sometimes scale can be a little bit funny up in the air like this. But this is the general process that we go through in order to create these locations and make sure that they are fun to play, essentially.
All right.
So yeah,
but tell us about
sneak peek at the.
I don't know if they're gonna actually, if they tell us anything about player bases for this stuff.
There are 70 underground facilities, or UGFs as we call them. And when these were built a couple of years ago, we had the kits to build a wide variety of these assets. However, due to technical limitations, we weren't able to realize their full potential. At that time, we had 70 locations, but we only had 2 security UGFs and 2 drug UGFs. This isn't a case of we haven't had enough assets or enough time to do the arts. Up until this point, we have all the things that we need to do the job. The raster tool has really just allowed us to take this to the next level. We are now able to go back and to revisit these 70 locations to create a wide amount of variety in there, so that each location doesn't look like a copy-paste version of the other. This is a
To be honest, I still feel like I don't notice that much of a difference between the different things, but maybe there are. Maybe there are. All right. So back to what Todd was saying in this one. Anyways, Rastar is the tool that they built to build outposts, and that's what eventually will build the foundation of what we're using when he's talking about this whole idea of mapping it out from above. And I'm hoping they do something along the lines of like, oh, there's a drone above that you're using to look down on the ground, and it's not just some RTS layout, you know?
Come together. You'll see the resources that are needed for it. And then you can also switch back and forth between different modes, which are showing off the resource network and how you link basically power generators to consumers. And then the player can move or deconstruct existing buildings right now with no charge.
What?
Fabrication. So when you basically build these buildings, they don't come with any furnishings. And if you didn't bring any with you, then you want to build a fabricator. So depending on what you want to build, there's different sizes of them that support buildings from decorations, armor, weapons, components, and even ships.
See, imagine if you just plopped down your base on top of a resource pool in the ground, pulled whatever resources you needed out of that a ship mostly takes, imported the rest of the stuff from your friend's org who does a lot of cargo shipping, and just manufactured ships and sent them off to sell them to, like, I don't know, a storefront in some city. Just making money hand over fist, manufacturing stuff and shipping it off. I can't wait. I can't freaking wait to just manufacture and ship out a whole bunch of drugs. I mean, what? I meant water bottles and food, of course.
Like base building mode, you need blueprints, resources to craft what you want. Everything fabricated is produced from it produces a physicalized entity. Stats and quality will depend on the quality of the materials actually used. Once you've done that and you've built your decoration,
yes, tomatoes.
Now you can actually fill the room the way that you want to fill it. So furnishings can be purchased at different locations, or they can actually be fabricated.
God, imagine though. Imagine if you can actually have a base with just a whole window wall like this, like the ridiculous graphics and vistas they're putting in this game. We're still in Star System number 1. Like, how crazy are the views we're gonna get from a system like Ellis or Castra or other places like that, where you can have a nice view out in a place that you might not even have to leave to do the stuff you want to do.
You can do that via first person or in a dedicated mode in the Surveyor's tool. With that, you've got different types of buildings. So you've got utility style, which would be garages, freight elevators, landing pads, storefronts. And then you've got extractors. So with extractors, we want to make sure that nothing in regards to resource gathering is fully automated. A level of player engagement is always needed. So as Nick talked about before, there are different types of commodities, radioactive, perishable, etc. What you'll be doing is pulling out full containers. Then from there, it'll be repairing, or there's wear and tear associated with it, or even misfires like you saw in Thorsten's talk and Guillermo's talk yesterday. There's also upgrade paths for making them more efficient or resilient.
Dude, that's so freaking deep. They're talking about straight up a tech ladder for extractors at your bases. This is, whew, that's a lot. I don't think that kind of stuff is coming anytime soon. That sounds more like 1.0 kind of plans. But the idea of not only building the bases, figuring out the locations, the resources you want, the ability to put in landing pads with freight elevators that can ship and receive goods, timing those goods based on the economy. You're now also talking about upgrading and changing your drills and pumps and water extractors. Is water actually going to be a good commodity to mess around with in this game, finally? Oh yeah, definitely more 1.0 kind of thing. There's no way this is coming in like the next year or two. This is upgrading extractors seems like a few years out. That's deep.
Nothing in regards to resource gathering is fully automated. A level of player engagement is always needed. So as Nick talked about before, there are different types of commodities, radioactive, perishable, etc. What you'll be doing is pulling out full containers. Then from there, it'll be repairing, or there's wear and tear associated with it, or even misfires like you saw in Thorsten's talk and Guillermo's talk yesterday. There's also upgrade paths for making them more efficient or resilient. Power
Yeah, I guess
generators.
water is not necessarily common as it is.
Different types of power generators. There'll be some that are more cost-effective as well as effective in different areas. Solar panels will not always work in darkness. Fuel generators.
Like what the actual hell? Geothermal? Freaking what? These planets are going to be seismic? I know they have seismic activity in the Croshaw system, but how? What? Brother, this is so much. Jesus.
Generators will need to be filled up every now and then batteries to store excess power.
But that's the resource network that they were talking about before. Supplying power, making sure that power is going to the right place, not overloading your power. It sounds like freaking, I'll say it again, satisfactory in a space game.
Then you've got producers. So things that will require the players to combine different resources to produce new items. And then you've got defense. So anti-air, anti-personnel, and then shield generators. And then the big one.
Okay, so that's about it. But here is the part that I think, man, clearly they were trying to get things finished here. They don't want to add in too many details so it doesn't lock them to too much stuff. But this seems like the most important slide when it comes to base building, and he really just kind of skipped over it. The idea of protecting these bases. Now, like they said, in the high security systems, you probably don't even need to supply this kind of stuff, but it's going to be interesting to see how they figure it out. No, attackers won't be able to destroy bases easily. That's an earlier slide back here. You're fully protected. You will not lose your base in a high security location. This kind of stuff is more for the low or no security areas where you're not paying for that kind of stuff. Geothermal is using heat from below ground to heat rooms and water. I know. I did a whole research paper on the, what was it called? The Wells Geothermal Power Station plant in Sonoma County, California. That was actually where I was headed for engineering before I went into HVAC thermal stuff. But for geothermal power, you need some kind of tectonic activity. Or is your planet just naturally spewing stuff out into out through the crust? We have no idea if that is a possibility. That's just inventing a problem to be mad at. What possibility? People attacking your base? You don't want Stanton to be the only lawful star system at launch. It won't be. I believe Magnus is a UEE system. Oh, we probably won't even see Magnus. We might see any combination, though, of Terra, Castra, Odin, possibly Magnus, but I don't think they're leaning towards Magnus. I think we'll have a few UEE systems. Other games have issues with. Oh, I see. Didn't know I was chill like what? Blowing up people's bases? Oh, the geothermal thing. You thought most planets have hot cores. They do, but like in order for the hot core to get out to the surface of the planet, you kind of got to move around a little bit. Got to do a little jig with your crust. It sounds gross. Endgame is after homesteading and death of a spaceman and killing anyone that steps on your land. Hey man, whatever you prefer. Tectonic plates are unique to Earth. Well, these people better figure it out then. These poser planets. Big geothermal. Green is on Ellis. Green is where the Murray Cup is. That racing module is on green. I love green. Green is where my ideal base would be. you could just go deep. You gotta go real deep. I think the deepest geothermal plant we have is in, I think it's either Norway or Iceland. And even that is like, you gotta, they're getting, I don't think if the ground's not shifting, I don't think that you can get very far. But maybe it's not actually that important. Have they mentioned if players will only be able to own one base? No, I think that would be kind of crazy if you could only own one base. Yeah, it might have been Iceland. When I was doing my research paper, the geothermal plant in Sonoma, I got to ride out there too. That was really cool. Dropped my motorcycle on accident out there. The geothermal plant in Sonoma has so many wells that if they reach the same depth as the deepest plant in wherever it was, Iceland or Norway or whatever, they would be able to power more than half of the San Francisco Bay Area on just the geothermal power. It's insane, but it's also kind of hard to do. What is that clacking sound? Might be Mrs. T. You go for oil deeper than geothermal in most cases. Well, that's how you get Still Wakes the Deep. That's why I don't do that stuff, man. I'm not about that life. Just an excuse for why your player base needs to be attached to the ground. The geothermal piping will be assumed. Sucks for you space station owners. Sickos. Oh, the music you're hearing. Yeah, so the last announcement he had
Personnel,
here was this.
And then shield generators. And then the big one. We start development Q1. So, that's me.
We've seen how the year has gone. Now, I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but we haven't really heard anything about that development. Not even in monthly reports, I believe. So, who knows what's going on with base building right now, but it does seem like, you know, what originally started off this whole talk, this video, is they've got more to say about it this year at CitizenCon. Which means we might actually go a whole year without hearing about base building. But what's new? You want earthquakes suddenly on planets? I believe, let me see. Star Citizen Croshaw system. Angeli, I think it was called, the first planet. Angeli system, yeah, here it is. The first planet terraformed and colonized by humans in another star system, Angeli unfortunately suffers from heightened tectonic activity. Geologists theorize that there will be devastating earthquakes in its future. Nestled between the mountains and sea, Angeli's city of Quinton features one of the most iconic skylines in the UEE. How iconic. But yeah, this kind of place is the sort of place that I'm guessing they're basing the idea of geothermal off of, which is cool. Honestly, they don't even need to explain it. There doesn't need to be any sort of logical explanation for why there's geothermal. I'm just being a little bitch. They can say whatever they want. It adds more variety to how you're searching out your bases, how you're powering them, how you're just designing them and all that stuff. Are we looking at potential release systems? No. We were looking at base building. But I just came to kind of the conclusion of that. But we can look at some of the first systems we'll see, because people were talking about wanting to make sure that, you know, you have enough systems that are high security, that you're allowed to be, or that you're protective of. And if you look at the nearby systems to Stanton, they could always change all of this stuff. They could change these jump points, they could change the systems that are nearby each other or where they connect, but this is where we are right now. Connects to Pyro, Terra, and Magnus. Now we know we're getting Pyro, right? That's, I think if anybody doubts that, maybe they should take a break. And we know we're getting Nyx. Not necessarily because they talk about it a lot, but they kind of talk about it a lot. They're already done with all the planets in Nyx in terms of planetary art. They have completed the landing zone, but they probably need to update it for... I think in a monthly report earlier this year, they said that the Nyx landing zone has been keeping up to date with all the different things they've been doing over the years. So Nyx, in terms of locations, is mostly done. They probably just have to work on factions, missions, and reputation. So that's our first 3 systems right there. And I think we could have all of these by the end of next year if server meshing works out well for them. Going from there, they could hit up Castra, which is a high security system, military focused system. So that would definitely be easy place to build bases. From Stanton, they could also go back to Terra, which is the center of the whole game, essentially. And really would be a great opportunity for them to create what I think should be the starting system. It sounds like it'll still be Stanton, but I think Terra would be a better choice. They could also go to Magnus, which is... It's not high. I think it's low security, to be honest. No, it is a UEE system. So this also might be a high security system, but I don't know how safe it is because they did have a pretty long series of decades with crime. Besides those, though, I honestly don't know where else they would go. They could continue from... Let's see. I believe... Here's Vega. And... I want to say... Odin. Odin connects to Nyx as well. This is the system where Squadron 42 takes place. So they could hypothetically have 4 systems done fairly quickly, relatively speaking, if they also made big efforts to update Odin for Star Citizen's system. Squadron 42 does not require all the stuff that Star Citizen does, so it's not like they could just pull this out of Squadron and put it in Star Citizen, but if Stanton is done, Pyro is done, Nyx is done, a natural progression from there would include Odin. And honestly, if they could include Terra there, then you'd have Odin, Nyx, Pyro, Stanton, and Terra all making up a line. Terra also connects to Pyro, so you got some interconnectivity there. And you would have an easy connect into Castra, which is also a high security system. So we're looking at potentially 7 systems that they have at least reasons to make. Not saying they're all making all of them, but I do think that at least those first 3 systems are a pretty done deal within a couple of years, if not a year of Citizen... God, so many S words of server meshing getting into a good place. Magnus, low security UEE. Terra is high security UEE. Pyro is no security UEE. I think it also gives you a good spread. Thought Pyro was just the multi-tool. Yeah, server meshing is the linchpin. That's why it's such a big deal. That's why we're so anxious, right? You think we get 3 systems? Oh, with the 4.0 cycle. Okay. I thought you were going to say with 4.0. I was like, my friend. You going to hold me to that? By end of 2025, we see Nyx? I mean, clip me if you want. I've been wrong about enough stuff already. What's one more? Starter system should be whatever system has the highest security. Yeah, I think Terra would make the most sense for a starter system. You basically have a whole game in a system like this. I mean, let's jump in. Just look at how many planets you got here. Actually, you've only got 4 planets. Never mind. But you got a ton of jump points, plenty of security, and basically the home of humanity. Now, I know. I'm a heathen. Earth is really the home of humanity, but this place could definitely... I think this could overall be the ideal starting system for this game. And a great place to build some bases. If he's right, everyone donates 100 subs. You're all signed up to the deal. If you are in 4.5 and don't have at least 2 other systems, you owe me $1,000. How about 1,000 UEC? So yeah, as far as endgame content goes, and it's funny to say endgame when we're looking at 5 systems when you've got all these star systems within the lore of this game. God only knows how many of these we'll actually ever see. If you're tied to there being 100 systems in this game, I pray for you, because I am a copium factory when it comes to this game, and I don't think I'll ever see 100 systems in this. I say hope for a good 20 systems, feeling real good. Anything past that is good news, because from what we're seeing, the possibilities of base building, all of the different types of gameplay that feed into that, from mining to cargo hauling to data running, exploration, salvaging, all these things can factor into base building and crafting to make what I think is a very, very in-depth overall game loop. And there's a lot of other small things that can make this game or break this game that can make all of this not really matter all that much, and can ultimately, thank you very much, kill the project. Not kill it, but like kill the momentum it has and the growth it's seeing. And all that is still worth discussing. But at the end of the day, I think that base building and crafting is a really, really integral part of making this game matter in the long run, especially for a larger group of players. Thank you very much. Blue Trino, thank you so much for the 5 members on YouTube. I really appreciate that. You're a homie for that, coming in at the end of the stream and dropping in that support. Much love. Still 14 years old at heart. Yeah, man. 100 systems is a lot. That's a lot of, like, seeing how much they put into each system. The 100 system number was made when we couldn't even land on planets, so base building wasn't even an idea at that time. There's a lot more content to be considered now per system than there was back then. You keep thinking there won't be enough planet or moon surface for everyone to build bases, then you realize after 3 star systems, there's more surface area than here on Earth. Yeah. They're big freaking planets and moons. Oh, they're talking about machine learning to help build out systems and planets right now. I think we could definitely expect 5 at launch. Stanton, Pyro, and Nyx for sure, with any number of mixtures including Terra, Odin, Castra, Magnus. Wait, hold on. Stanton, Pyro, Nyx, Castra, Odin would be 5, with a possible inclusion of Magnus, Terra, and my favorite, which won't be there at launch, but, you know, I like to dream, the Ellis system, which is absolutely massive. This system is huge. This system is so freaking big that when you zoom out to see the whole thing, you can see other star systems in the view. Just for, like, some reference, the Ellis system is 100 AU compared to Stanton's 5 AU. So 20 times bigger. Yeah, Ellis is my home system in my character's lore, and Magnus is our current location in Stanton. I believe Magnus is one of the best situated systems in the entire game's lore, and I'm looking forward to it. Anyways, folks, that's it for base building. Now, we're gonna go cook some fried chicken. I know that's a huge shift. That's quite the derailment. But we are going to, on Twitch, we're going to head over to the other channel. I'm going to raid y'all into it. Mods, if you guys could drop the links into YouTube for anybody who wants to join us. On today's cooking stream, we are cooking 3 different types of unique fried chicken. for a little taste test. We're gonna hit up some mac and cheese while we're at it, and maybe a little salad because you know your boy needs some greens. But it's gonna be a good time as always. Me and Mrs. Tomato will be chilling in the kitchen, talking to you guys, answering questions. If you want, you can ask more questions about base building. You ask questions about us. Talk about what you're into, what you're doing, what this week has in store for you. No matter what, it's just a chill time for us to hang out with the garden and have a good time. But I hope you enjoyed this talk about base building and Star Citizen's endgame and all that jazz. There's a lot more to go over with this, and I think we'll probably have to wait till CitizenCon to get extra details, but this was kind of my first early preview on base building. I'm going to release a video about this that condenses all of this 2.5 hours into like 10 minutes to just kind of scoot on through. But for now, I hope this deep dive served you well. Thank you everybody for coming and hanging out. Hope you enjoyed. Hope you got some entertainment from it. Maybe you learned something new. And I look forward to seeing you all over on Le Cooking Stream. Because oh my gosh, Mrs. Tomato makes such good fried chicken, and I promise you guys, we gonna have a good time. Anyways, everybody, I'll see you over there in about a minute. Again, on YouTube, hit that link, head over to the channel, come say hi, and have a wonderful day. Eat something you love, hug somebody you love, do yourself a couple favors today, have a good time, go to sleep early, and treat yourself well. You're all amazing people. I appreciate you being here. Thanks again, and I'll see you in a couple minutes. Bye.